Welcome to Club Talk. This week we've had to go via the old Skype because Michael Verney's too lazy to come into the studio. Anyway, all the same, how you doing, Verney?
Not too bad, boy. What's the crack?
Are you hopping off the sod, thinking of the hurling this weekend?
Yeah, it's a good weekend considering after that, even after just last weekend, yourself and yourself were both down in Cork last weekend. Great kind of a home around. A couple of really interesting games this weekend as well, too, in fairness.
Yeah, no better place to start than the Leinster Club final between Ballyhale Shamrocks and St Mullins. We'll touch on a couple others, but we'll just start there. And before I even look at this game and the specifics of it, 4-11 Ballyhale Shamrocks to win the All Ireland. Never mind this match, 4-11 for the All Ireland. Have you ever seen odds like that at this stage of the game?
To be fair, when Portumna won back to back, I can't remember the 2 years they did back to back. They were 4-6 to win the All Ireland before a ball was thrown in the Galway Championship the year after. So kind of, and they subsequently didn't win the All Ireland, beaten by Ballyhale actually, who got revenge on the semi final defeat the year before. Yeah, it's mad enough. If it was any other team in any other county, you'd say the expectation and the pressure might get to them. But it's such a star-studded lineup with so many different lads that can stand up on a different day. If TJ's quiet, Colin Fennelly will stand up. If he's quiet, Adrian Mullen will stand up. If he's quiet, Owen Cody or Brian Cody will stand up, or Owen Reid. So they've got kind of such a plethora of talent. But it is like 4-11 for the All Ireland. What are they for this weekend? It must be unbelievably short for this
They're like
weekend.
14-1 on to win this game. So like that was a big talking point for Lee last week. We're 4-1, 6-1 in some places, and like at half.
Yeah, well, Conor Kenny anyway seemed to think it's a very big talking point.
Yeah,
Anyway,
the interview I did with him, so funny then, and then he starts talking about how Kieran Maher was 33-1 or whatever to score first goal. So he wasn't just thinking of the insults; he was looking out for a bit of value too. But like looking at this man, 8-1 for Mullins. I mean, we're not here tipping up prices or anything like that, but 8-1 Mullins, and I'm trying to think what can they do to narrow that perceived gap. If it's a dirty slobbery day like it was for the Munster final last week, maybe that'll help out, because if you're against three of the Kilkenny starting forwards and a couple more that either will play for Kilkenny in the Codys or have in Owen Reid, who probably has 4 or 5 All Irelands, what'll slow him down? Maybe a dirty old day. You'd expect Mullins are going to keep someone extra back, are you? I mean, TJ Reid to be man-marked and then someone else to sweep behind.
well, you kind of have to man mark TJ realistically, and that he could still score 1-3 or 1-4, and he could still catch several puckles. But at least you're trying to give yourself some sort of a chance. The only thing about Mullins is they're a little different. Like they didn't win, they didn't beat Rathdowney, hitting 113 or 114 like that. They beat them getting 20 scores. They're obviously a side. They have forwards in Mouse Kavanagh, even Jack Kavanagh from midfield, and James Doyle. They have forwards that can put up a decent score as well. So like, while they'll be trying to negate Ballyhale's strengths, I'm sure they'll be definitely trying to play to theirs, and they'll be conscious of the fact that they're not going to take away from their own strengths just to try and stop Ballyhale's.
I think so. Do you put much store in Owen or Richie Reid being out of this game? He's obviously been on the Kilkenny panel for a number of years. At one stage as a sub goalie. I think he was a goalkeeper for Ballyhale a couple of years ago. The fact that he's away on army duty, do you put much stock in that? I see in the game against St Martin's, Gavin Butler came on for him, so perhaps that was a bit of a trial run.
Yeah, no, I do, to be honest with you. All throughout last year, he was around wing back midfield, and while they have a star-studded forward line, they do have to get the ball into them first.
Yeah.
And the delivery of ball that he would give in from the half-back line was top class. I understand he'd be back for the All-Ireland semi-final if they get there. He's on 3 weeks leave at Christmas, so he'll be back to play the All-Ireland semi-final if they get there. But he is a fair old loss. They have a couple of boys missing from the fringes of the squad as well. They have picked up a couple of injuries as well. So it's not. I do think it will be a significant loss. You do still think that the forwards are just too strong. There's just too much depth there. But someone like that, kind of an unsung kind of a player, being taken away, it'll be interesting to see what sort of a loss it is. I do expect it to be reasonably significant, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Henry Shefflin obviously knows how to manage a team at this stage. They're reigning All-Ireland champions, heavily tipped to come in and win Leinster again. I'm just trying to think, how could St Mullins try to expose him? So the obvious thing is, okay, Richie Reid isn't going to be there, so you're definitely digging deeper into your panel. After that, do you try, I mean, and obviously Shefflin will see this coming, do you try to create a bit of space around Michael Fennelly, who's obviously had many injuries over the years and will want to sit in the pocket in front of the full back line? Do you try and get him in a situation where you have someone like Mouse Kavanagh, who may be man-marked, but do you try to get someone like him or James Doyle in this area and run at him?
Just on that, Michael Fennelly's only going to play a centre back or just back in the pocket. So it'd be interesting if if he tries to play sweeper-ish kind of a role, that if they mark him with someone like Mouse, who's very kind of elusive, and if Fennelly gives him 10 or 15 yards, he could easily end up with 4 or 5 points. I do expect him to go after probably, Richie Reid is 5, Fennelly is 6, probably go after that kind of side of the field, that kind of area of the pitch. That's where they're going to need to get a bit of joy. Now Fennelly could hit a load of ball, he's so experienced. Someone else will probably, one of the midfielders will probably sit back, centre back, but they're going to have to try something different. They're going to have to. While they could play a sweeper themselves, I do expect them to go for broke somewhat. I do think, I know you've said it before, the effects of maybe a 10 or a 15 point beating. Yeah. I do think they'll go for it, because they've gotten to this stage. Few would have expected them to get to this stage. I'm not saying they've nothing to lose, but I think they'd be better placed to go for the game and see how it goes. Try and exploit maybe 5 and 6 there, and if they get a bit of joy out of that, you wouldn't know what could happen. But I don't expect them just to try to totally contain Ballyhale. I do think they will try and go at them and go at themselves. That's more along their style, and it would be more playing to their strengths if they try and do that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have a battle of 2 brilliant free takers. So TJ Reid. It's funny enough, like if you go back about a year ago, was it the Castlecomer game or I think it was the county semi-final for Ballyhale. Didn't he miss 3 penalties? But anyway, he's a brilliant free taker in general. So was Mouse Kavanagh. But the other thing I suppose we haven't touched on is discipline is going to be huge for St Mullins, because I think even in the Carlow Championship, in the semi-final against Ballinkillen and against Mount Leinster Rangers, they got red cards. It's something that crops up now and again with them. So I think they're going to need to keep 15 on the field here, surely.
If they lose a man, they're goose, particularly anyway in the first half or anything like that. So the temptation can be against a very good team, or TJ Reid is flying through and someone puts a slap or something like that, and it's just like if they're playing with 14, they have absolutely no hope. Then on the flip of that, if they take on Ballyhale maybe, and the likes of Mouse Kavanagh maybe goes at them, James Doyle goes at them, and I don't know, they're going to need a scenario probably where Ballyhale are probably going to have to lose a man, or they're going to have to lose someone to a big injury or something like that. The stars are going to have to line for Mullins to win. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but it's a real long shot.
I think it's going to have to be one of those lights out days for Mullins. Like James Doyle, brilliant goal against Coola, some unbelievable scores against Rathdowney. Everyone talks about the 2 points at the end, but at the start of the second half, when they probably needed a score, got a brilliant one. So he's going to have to shoot the lights out, and no doubt Henry Shefflin will be trying to lock him down. Mouse Kavanagh is going to have to shoot the lights out. The backs are going to have to somehow hold TJ Reid, Adrian Mullen and Colin Fennelly. It's probably all told going to be too much to kind of ask for, and that's why they're 8-1, but you never know. And I think with the slobbery conditions, a total of 25 scores last week between Borrisoleigh and Ballygunner. If it's another dog of a day in Portlaoise, like that field will cut up and get pretty heavy. We've played there a few times with Coola in the last number of years. It's a final place. It's actually a perfect venue for something like a Leinster final. The crowd will be decent. It won't be huge and be ideal for like a big wide inter-county stadium, but it's probably nice. It's going to be a nice little venue. Place is going to be absolutely hopping. If the pitch is a little bit slow, you give Mullins a bit of a chance, maybe not quite to turn Ballyhale over, but you just never know. But everything has to go right for him.
It does, and just something we've said, like we've kind of gone through how Mullins are going to stop Ballyhale. Invariably, it's been a team of this Ballyhale kind of squad in the last year, particularly when Shefflin has taken over. Invariably, they managed to keep the opposition danger man very quiet. Rory O'Connor was ineffective. O'Connor was ineffective for Martins. A couple of the James Stevens forwards in the county final never really got more. They have a tendency to be able to shut down the key danger men on the opposition team as well. So like if Mouse Kavanagh is quiet, if James Doyle is quiet, they could be in for a long afternoon.
Actually, just one final point now that you mentioned the county final against James Stevens. James Stevens had the idea that when TJ Reid pushes up on the centre back, or is in the centre backs area, Owen Larkin, who was playing at 6, will mark him. When he drifted out the field, I can't remember him off the top of the head, but the number 8, that he would pick him up. They got caught between two stools and TJ took full advantage. I think what St Mullins need to do is a bit like what Borrisoleigh did with Pádraig Mahoney who put Brendan Maher on Pádraig Mahoney, and he just followed him everywhere he went and tried to out-hurl him going the other way. Now, I'm not saying anyone's going to out-hurl TJ, they're not. But what I'd do is just put someone on TJ, full-time marker, don't give him a chance to ever drift into any space or get away from it, get like a marker kind of second guessing him, thinking, do I have to pick up TJ now or do I have to go somewhere else? Just tell someone to stick to him like muck on a blanket and let that be that, because otherwise I think the chances are they're going to take a bit of a baiting.
That tactic of passing a man on when he gets past a certain line, I don't like it, because if you have a clever player like that, TJ, who will go from side to side, TJ could go, you just say he goes past the 65, you pass him on. TJ could go, stay within the 65, but drift out to the wing, and then does the centre back vacate the centre, and the midfielder is looking back, well, he's not in my area, I'm not going to pick him up either. So he can really get caught between two stools, and someone who's as smart as him only needs a yard, and he could take advantage of that. So for me, all day, every day, TJ, it's like Richie Hogan a couple of years ago, you just have to place a man marker on him. You just have to.
And like Kilkenny teams are in 3 Leinster finals this weekend. Tullaroan are against Seir Kieran in the intermediate final, and then Connie Shamrocks, who actually lost to O'Loughlin Gale's second team in the junior Kilkenny final, well, they're into the Leinster final against Ballygarrett of Wexford. And much like Kerry with their football championship and doing so well, having their the way their grades are split up, Kilkenny teams having 12 in the top grade, 12 in the second grade, they tend to always be strong. Obviously they're a strong hurling county anyway, but they're very strong, and they're considered very hot favourites against Seir Kieran of your own Offaly.
Yeah, I don't think they're as hot favourites as people are making out. To be honest with you, they're heavy favourites. I think they're 1 to 3 or 3 to 10 in the bookies. Seir Kieran would have been earmarked to win the Senior B in Offaly basically from the minute they were relegated from Senior A the year before by Kennedy. They were beating a pint in the relegation final the year before. Aside that, on their day, had the quality to definitely be in like the semi-finals in the Senior Championship in Offaly every year. Didn't quite make it to a final in the last couple of years, but we're always there or thereabouts. If you go down through their team, you're talking about 7 or 8 lads that have played senior county for Offaly, just off the top of my head. You know, Sean Coughlin, Aidan Murphy, Joe Bergen, who everyone knows, James Mulrooney, Tom Carroll. There's just 5 off the top of my head. Adrian Hines would have been in around the panel as well. So like, they've loads and loads of talent, particularly up front. They've a lot of scoring talent. They've 4 or 5 boys that can share the load and attack. I think they're coming into the final in a brilliant position. They went down to play Bray Emmets in Auckland in the semi-final, and I just knew going down there, just even from my time at Wicklow, how hard it is to win down there. And Bray won the Wicklow Championship reasonably convincing as well. They ran at Seir Kieran, caused them a lot of trouble. And they were, I think it was 10 points to 1-3 up at half time. But crucially, and it doesn't matter how you get there, Seir Kieran were just able to pull through in the second half. A lot of their big name players just delivered a performance in the second half. They're coming in really, really quietly now. They won by a goal in the semi-final. Tullaroan have they blitzed their way through Leinster. They won Kilkenny reasonably convincing. Were fancy to win Kilkenny from the start of the championship as well. Probably haven't had a really, really competitive game for an hour. Maybe similar to Ballygunner. And I just think it's going to be an interesting match. I don't think the bookmakers have it right. I think it's a 50-50 game, and I think there'll be no more than a puck of a ball in it.
Yeah, when I saw Tullaroan playing against Thomastown in the county final in Nolan Park, very good performance. I mean, obviously having a leader like Tommy Walsh, as much as getting lads in the right frame of mind beforehand, you can only, if the way he talks on the radio is anything like the way he talks in the dressing room, he'd probably get you absolutely fired up for a game altogether. Then you've got Pádraig Walsh, centre back, one of the best players in the country, I would say, overall, over the last maybe 5 years. Then Tommy Walsh, who we saw on the Kilkenny panel this year, showed unbelievable pace in, I think it was the Dublin game, soloed through from corner back and ended up scoring a point.
And then was kind of gone for the rest of the year after. Yeah, do you know, he played, I think he was whipped at half time in one of the games, maybe the Galway game, can't fully remember, and basically didn't play for Kilkenny for the rest of the year. But he's definitely a name you're going to hear probably for the next 7 or 8 years with Kilkenny, and he'd probably be matched up with Joe Bergen or James Mulrooney, one or the other, and that would be a key type of a duel. If he can keep one of the Seir Kieran kind of ace kind of forwards quiet, they're going to be you know, in control somewhat. But like, there's talks of Martin Keown possibly been limped out in the semi-final against Naas. They won fairly well. talks of an ACL injury. Something like that could tip the balance. Whether he plays or not could tip the balance.
Like, you know Joe Bergen pretty well. If you were thinking, how do we nullify Pádraig Walsh in terms of, like, he's not a huge man, but he's a great man under a puck out. If you hit a load of ball to the side, high hanging, he's going to climb in over someone's head and catch ball. If you were Seir Kieran, would you be thinking, right, let's put every ball hanging straight down on top of his head? Again, this is something Burris Lee did against Ballygunner, and sort of have lads running in on him from all sides and make it a battle. I mean, you're not necessarily going to win those puck outs yourself, but you're going to make it very hard for Tullaroan to work the ball out.
Yeah, definitely an interesting tactic. Same one that Wexford kind of used basically the one Wexford used in the Leinster final.
Exactly.
On Pádraig Walsh, yeah. And I personally, I don't think they'll put too much down the middle, being honest with you. Stephen Hines, a very effective club hurler, who probably most people would have said was finished at senior level up until this year. After getting himself in Great Nick, only hurled intermediate last year. He'll be kind of just in around Pádraig Walsh to stop him playing. I'd imagine they would try and isolate Joe Bergen on puckouts in the wing. It was interesting. I was chatting to Joe earlier in the week just for a piece in Independence on Saturday, and he actually started playing adult grade hurling with Clarine when he was 15. They got beaten in a junior final. Played senior then when he was 16, 2003, and has basically been playing ever since. And the senior championship, the senior B win this year, was the first championship medal he's won with Seir Kieran throughout his whole career. For someone like him, especially after a disappointing year with Offaly, and various bits of controversy about why he wasn't playing against Kerry and things like that, it'd be a fitting kind of end to the season for him. He's going to be difficult to stop. I'd be surprised if they don't place him at 10 or 12 for puckouts and put a lot of ball down on top of him, while the centre forward is trying to pull Pádraig Walsh and kind of play a bit of a guessing game with him and just get him away from the area where the ball is.
And probably most people don't even realise that Joe Bergen has scored, I think it's approximately 20 goals in his senior inter-county career for Offaly, and that was all at the top level before the restructuring. So
and rarely a bad one.
Yeah,
rarely a bad one.
And he's probably going to hit the frees as well, and he's rarely had a bad day on them either. So much like you're saying, you'd have to give Seir Kieran some sort of chance. And of course, I did an interview with Joe Dooley, which has gone up, a clubman of Seir Kieran, and of course an Offaly legend, which has gone up on OurGame this week. So check that out. You'll see that on the playlist there.
Just an interesting one with Joe. Joe actually trained Clarine. He was the physical trainer when they won their first title, made the breakthrough. I think it was 88. Yeah. He ended up playing for Seir Kieran then, as he said in the interview with you. He ended up playing for Seir Kieran while his son Shane was playing for Tullamore as well. And Joe is part of that kind of the great kind of dynasty in Seir Kieran. The Dooleys, say the Dooleys, Kevin Keenan and Eugene Coughlin, Mick Coughlin, all the Mulroonies as well. And just even chatting Joe Bergen, it's still the same. It's still made up of 5 or 6 families for a small kind of parish. I think it's 2 miles squared in 4 directions from the crossroads in Clarine. And as Joe Bergen said, you tell where Clarine starts because you see flags, and when you stop seeing flags, you're not in Clarine anymore. You stop seeing black and amber flags. But it's an interesting game. I don't think it'll be half as one-sided. I don't think it'll be one-sided at all, and it would give Seir Kieran a fair chance. They're a parish of, I think, between 400 and 500 people still competing at Senior B, now going to be Senior A next year. They were in the intermediate final as well, and they have a Junior B side as well. So their retention rates for a small club, like my club in Burr, we're a town. We only had 2 hurling teams, but it's something about a country rural club. They're just able to keep everyone hurling. It's great. Like we would always say years ago, spot the bandage, like on the Clarine lads, whether it was one of them kind of blue knee bandage or it was a bit of white tape or something. There was always something holding lads together, but they all stayed going until their early 40s, and it's still like that, and it's a great tradition to have in a club. Yeah,
you have to love that stuff, especially situations in Junior B teams when you see lads going out onto the field wearing jeans because they've just been dragged in from the crowd. Love that old crack. So Connie Shamrock's there in the junior final as well, and like both other teams from Kilkenny this weekend, they are favourites with the bookies. So they're going to be playing Ballygarrett in Belfield in Enniscorthy. That's 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. Now, I wouldn't have seen too much of this, and neither would you, but the Connie manager, Paul Buggy, he was saying of Ballygarrett that they're, in the Kilkenny people, they're a big, physically strong team and they're able to hurl. And on the Conaghy side, apparently James Bergen missed the last 2 matches, and he's sort of a 50-50 chance of coming back from a hamstring. And another forward, Dara Dooley, he's nursing a sprained ankle. I'm not sure if you'd know too much about these, Michael.
Could be wrong, but I could be wrong. But I think I might have come across James Borgum when he played in Kieran's. I could be wrong. Name sounds very familiar, but like a lot of it will hinge on your star player. If he's not fit to play, or if he is fit to play and he's nursing an injury, they could be under pressure again at this sort of level as well. No more than in the intermediate game, and with TJ Reid and Mouse Cabin in the senior game, a lot's going to come down to your free taker. You're probably going to get 10 scoreable frees in these games, and if 9 or 10 converted, you have a great chance of winning. Kilkenny's record at intermediate and junior level in Leinster in the last, since the competitions were brought in, basically, is outstanding. So I would probably lean towards them, but again, a lot of it does fall back to whether James Borgum and Dara Dooley and these kind of lads, their key men are fit.
Yeah, there's a Camogie Club junior final replay on this weekend. Clonmorris of Kerry against Redharney of Westmeath. That's on in Nina at 1:30.
I think that was pretty thrilling last weekend. I think Pamela Greville, who everyone would remember from the intermediate final this year, where her brother Johnny was manager as well.
Oh, yeah.
She ended up getting third here, and Johnny gave a great speech. He said there'd be no Jim Gavins out of me or anything after. But Pamela Greville is kind of the star player for Redharney. Just from reading the reports last week, I heard it was a bit of a thriller. So we're expecting more kind of fireworks again this weekend.
And the inter-county stuff is starting back, albeit very low, I suppose, low wattage sort of stuff.
What do you make of that, though? What do you make of that at this stage of the year? We're still going to be in. We might have hit December 1st, will we? No, we won't. It'll be still November when these games are played. Personally, I think it's mad. I think it's mad from a county player's point of view. Like some lads will get a chance in the Kyo Cup. And if they don't play well, they might get another chance. This is so far removed from even late league and early championship. It's not even funny. I personally think it's bizarre. I think they brought back chatting to Kevin Feely earlier on the week, and he said, I just don't see the point in these pre-season competitions. He said lads are finishing club and then they're a week or two break, and because they feel obliged to go back in, and that's the way GA players are. If a team is back training, they don't want to be sitting on their arse for a couple of weeks. So lads are going back in, having barely finished their club championship, and the year is just rolling on. There's basically no end to it. I just think it's mad playing games this side of Christmas. I don't see the merit in pre-season championship games.
I'd 100% be on for scrapping them. I mean, for us, it's probably to some degree as journalists, it's great to have more games to talk about. But just to speak anecdotally, and Matty Kenny wouldn't have talked about this himself, but like last year when he was appointed late as the Dublin manager, you had those pre-season competitions before Christmas. He'd taken over the job, first training session, 10 days later he's putting his team out in one of these competitions when he wants to be focusing on, getting the lads physically prepared, do all that physical training you need to do before starting into a new season. I think most panels are probably together. I mean, obviously some are together longer than others and some probably shouldn't be, but 3 or 4 or 5 weeks or whatever it is. But the idea of going into games and the slobbering and the shit and the muck at this time of the year, I don't know how much is being gained, especially like you were saying, a lad will come onto the panel, he'll be kind of, I don't know, at the tail end of the panel, he'll play one of these games, how on earth are you supposed to impress, and all of a sudden he probably gets the boot then.
But it's like this at this stage of the year. I'd say you're probably inter-county standards, so that's very far removed from the summertime. But I just remember even playing Offaly back in the day, playing Walsh Cup games, even I remember playing against Westmeath, and I was absolutely atrocious. We were beaten by Westmeath in the first game in charge. I was the sort of lad that needed like 3 or 4 games. Once I got 3 or 4 games, I was grand. I was up to speed. But the first game of the year can just be a nightmare. And some lads inter-county careers will hang on like these kind of meaningless matches at this time of the year. I just don't get it personally. I think most of the managers would prefer to have 3 or 4 weeks of training, then organise a challenge game in a nice pitch, maybe under light somewhere with a decent surface against another inter-county team or one of the club teams preparing for an All-Ireland semi-final. These sort of games, I don't personally see the value in.
Yeah, because like it's funny there you mentioned these sort of games and like it's your one chance to impress. And again, it reminds me of like when you're in the middle of a club season, like for example with Coola, and like the big games might go on, like the Leinster games or whatever, and then all of a sudden you have a week off and you play a challenge match, and if you've been on the bench you might get a chance to play this game. But if you're to show the best of yourself, you'd probably love to play in a game where the other 14 best lads, or A team will say, are being picked. Like, you're going to play better when you're around all the best players, rather than everyone from the B team being thrown out together en masse and go out there and impress. Have you been in a situation like that when you're supposed to put your hand up for selection when you don't have all the best players around you? It's tougher.
It is very, very tough. That's why I think the really clever managers, when they're giving lads chances in league, like, this is why you don't see like 10 or 12 changes for league games. I personally think if a lad is getting a chance cornerback, he should have the regular fullback, or at least the stand-in fullback beside him, and probably the regular halfback in front of him. Same if you're getting a chance centre back, you should probably have your two regular wing backs beside you, because otherwise lads coming in, and a lot of time it is kind of treated like a trial game. It's lads hurling for themselves. It's lad hurling to try and impress. So like making wholesale changes, I just don't think it's accurate. It's much easier to do it in a forward line, because you get a ball and you put it over the bar, you get a couple of scores. In the back line, where it's like a unit, that's where I think it's harder to impress in the back line, because you have a lot of new faces around the place. I personally just think if lads are getting a chance, if you're getting 3 lads are getting a chance in a game, that they should have experienced players or regulars beside them, because it's a far fairer reflection on whether they're up to that standard or not.
So the Kyo Cup is on this weekend. Meath are against Antrim. That's Darren Gleeson's first game in charge, and also Nick Weir's first game in charge of Meath. So it's I wonder for Darren Gleeson how much store he puts in this sort of game, because he's been involved for the past couple of years, but sure, I suppose every manager wants to get a rolling start.
Yeah, it is important to get moving and get wins and that, because I suppose nobody's talking about you really if you're winning the games, but if you're like losing the games, just say Tipperary, for example, last year in the pre-season in the old Waterford Crystal, just say they've been beaten in every game. Liam Sheedy would go into the league then. Sheedy still winless without a game in his second term. Do you know what I mean? So it is important just to get. It's probably just important to get a win if you can, just to say, listen, we have a win under our belt. We were in a Kyo Cup final. I know a lot of managers will place a lot of stock. I've noticed that actually with managers that maybe when things aren't going that well, or at the end of the year when they're trying to get back for another year, it's like, well, listen, we were in the Kyo Cup final, we were in the league final. Do you know what I mean? It looks good maybe at the end of the year to say you were in finals regardless if you won or not. I don't think either of them would place too much stock in it. It's more just getting the bodies back out on the pitch, getting lads used to that sort of kind of hardship on a pitch at this time of the year again.
And I wonder, will Darren Gleeson bring out the Dunloy boys who got to Ulster Club final? Maybe not just yet, but no doubt they're back in doing something with him. And then probably in terms of like the optics of it, like Offaly versus Kildare in a Kyo Cup game isn't exactly the sexiest tie you'll ever see. But Michael Fennelly has his first game in charge of Offaly against his old Kilkenny teammate David Herty. And I have to say, it's kind of cute enough of Henry Shefflin to make Michael Fennelly captain, because he can't lessen his commitment to the club in the same period that he's taken on a county.
Very true, yeah. He was captain last year as well, while juggling the performance coach role with the Kildare footballers under Cian O'Neill. And now, I just wonder, I just don't know, where does he get the time? I really don't know. Where does he get the time to do a 9-to-5 job, be an inter-county manager, still be a player? That's the hardest part of them all, is that you're still looking after yourself, that you're still eating well, and particularly with him, who's coming back from a microfracture of his knee, and a guy who's had so much injury, his Achilles in recent years. Where is he getting the time to do all his rehab? I wonder, like, he couldn't be getting his 8 hours sleep, and he must have a very, very, no more than Davy Fitzgerald taking a session the morning after his wedding. He obviously has a very, very understanding wife at home, in fairness. But the earlier finish to the club scene in January, you'd imagine Ballyhale are going to be there. That will obviously give him a bit more time as well. But then you throw like the Johnny Kelly thing in on it as well. Johnny Kelly won a Munster club title with Borrisoleigh last weekend, and 6 days later he's on the sideline with Offaly for the first competitive match. The manager is Michael Fennelly, who he could end up playing in an All-Ireland club final. There's just some bizarre kind of situations going on at this time of the year. But again, with these lads that are double jobbing, it just shows I suppose it just shows how good they are and how organised they are, how good they are at their job, that they're able to do two jobs seamlessly, be it Fennelly playing and managing, or be it Johnny Kelly, coach and manager.
Yeah, it's some stuff. Final mention then for the 2020 Conor McGuirk competition. That's starting this weekend. So for people who haven't heard of it, and to be honest, I've kind of forgotten about it myself, it's the third year running. So 9 teams compete in 3 sections. The teams involved are Queen's University, Ulster University, Armagh, Antrim, Down, Fermanagh, Tyrone, Louth and Longford. So the games this weekend, Queen's against Louth and Armagh against Longford. So I think we nearly have it all said, Bernie, have we?
Yeah, just on that, like it's interesting because Louth or Longford would have won a Kyo Cup maybe 2 years ago. So it's just interesting that geographically that they've decided to go back up and play in the McGuirk Cup. It's a good initiative because a lot of those teams take Antrim out of that, and a lot of them will be at the same level. And for the likes of Queens and Ulster University, who are going to be playing, not too sure if either of them are playing Fitzgibbon this year. I don't think they are, but they'll probably be playing Ryan Cup, and they'll be at a different stage of their preparation than the intercounty teams will. So it's great preparation for them. But loads of hurling. I just think it's mad that the intercounty teams are back at this stage of the year. But listen, that's the way it is. The All Ireland final was brought back a month, and they basically just brought the pre-season back a month as well.
Right, that's it for the Club Talk Hurling. If we've missed anything, let us know at ML Verney or at Shane Saint, and don't forget to follow the channel on YouTube. Lovely.
Good stuff, lad. Just want to get up.